Donald, you mentioned interviewing the guy Putin. How did that happen? Yeah.
So that was part of my my capacity in my day job, because, like I said before, I'm a correspondent and a news anchor for Russia Today. So as a correspondent, I get to travel. I get to travel around a lot, and I have like a really unique position because I'm an English native speaker, and I work in the English department, obviously. I'm an English native speaker. I have American citizenship, but I also speak Russian, and I have Russian citizenship, which opens doors to allow me to work within what's called the presidential pool of journalists. This is like a group of journalists that are allowed to go to these press conferences and ask questions to high-profile officials at specifically Russian-designated events. So you need Russian citizenship for that. You can't just be a foreigner. So I have it, and this is the first time that I was able to meet Putin when I went to Kyrgyzstan for a meeting of the Supreme Council of the Eurasian Economic Union. There were several times before where I went, for example, to Armenia also, and I was also supposed to meet him in the past in the Kremlin, but like both other times, he had to cancel the press conference because of some other circumstances. But I finally got to be at the press conference. They said they were going to be able to that we were going to be able to ask questions. So me and my team put together a question about specifically Josep Borrell, who's, like, if you don't know who that is, Europe's top diplomat. And because he made a recent comment
the guard in the jungle.
Yeah. He said he said that people in Africa support Russia because they don't know where Donbass is on a map and that they don't know who Putin is. So I asked Vladimir Putin, like, what do you think about that statement? And he gave a great answer about like how Russia used to support has long-standing ties with Africa, especially because of its aid that it gave to Africa during the Soviet period. You know, the kind of economic aid and political support that it gave tons of African countries in their struggle against colonialism. So Vladimir Putin was talking to me about anti-colonial struggle and how Russia is all for it, you know. So that was a really cool opportunity I got, and it was interesting being there though too. I was a little nervous, especially because I had to ask like Vladimir Putin a question in a language that is like my third language. I mean, I speak English obviously, but I grew up speaking Spanish as well. I can't speak it anymore because I haven't spoken it for years, but I can understand it fine. And Russian is my third language. So got to ask the president of the country something in my third language. And but it came out fine. But there was one girl next to me, dude. She was like so nervous. She was shaking. She was like crying when she was asking her question. Like, people get so nervous.
I imagine a lib journalist getting a chance to ask Putin a question. They would be like, "Okay, Mr. Putin," and of course they would say Mr. Mr. Putin, how can you be anti-colonialist if you're doing an imperialism in Ukraine? Checkmate.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Like they don't invite Western hostile journalists anymore to this stuff, because what happened is that after the Russian military operation began, they would come to these press conferences and constantly ask the same provocative questions, like exactly the same, just like that. I remember I heard a story, like even there was this one BBC journalist, and he's like waving his hand to ask a question, and Putin was like, he was like, "Yeah, you over there. Wait a second. Are you going to ask a provocative question?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to ask a provocative question." So they gave him the mic, and he's like, "Why are you invading Ukraine?" So it's like, you know, these journalists just became trolls, basically. And for that, the Russian government eventually was like, okay, we're not going to deal with this anymore, especially because the Russian journalists were banned in the West first anyway. Like Russia Today was blocked and banned in the US and Europe. Yeah. Sputnik was too. That's why Russia decided to ban a number of Western media outlets, like the most provocative of them.
Goodbye.